So, shalom and welcome to TheDustyFeet.com because this is a place where we can safely explore the endless ways of God and interconnection of His creation, where belief understandings, they may be challenged, divine misunderstandings, they may exist, and traditional teachings, they might falter as we pursue connection, context, and community with God and each other here in an environment of grace and love. So, feel free to journey around the space. Explore. We have many different topics for discussion. Outside the class, Sons of the Father, Bible Project, Aleph Beta, Follow the Red String, and more. So lend your ear, and then lend your voice. Join a conversation, start a conversation, ask questions, because you're probably around folks that just might be pondering the same thing. Community that can build and connect. So come in and join us. And welcome to The Dusty Feet. And good evening. It's June 27th, 2023, and this is part 2 of episode 36 in our Matthew series, Blood Cries Out. Again, with this way of doing things, you can watch the videos before we begin chatting. We still hope to keep these to around 15 minutes or so. We want to make them easy to catch and even easier to catch up on. So, welcome to Outside the Class. In the description below are links to all of the audio, video, and source documents that we use here in the Dusty Feet. We want to make sure that any material we use here is properly credited to those folks who work so hard to bring it to us. Without their efforts, the learning we do here does not happen. And of course on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and click that bell icon if you want to remind. Yeah. So again, it's expected that you watch the reference videos first, so you can get a context for the discussion and to hear the perspective of the originator, in this case, Tim Mackie. On TheDustyFeet.com, in the Outside the Class section, we have this entire Matthew series thus far. So each of the source videos for all of our discussions, they're posted there in advance. So, you have not yet. Pause this. Go to TheDustyFeet.com, explore, and watch the video. When you come back, then we can chat. And we're back. So, again, I can always make it clear as we begin, right, that I'll be mentioning and discussing some points that'll be very challenging for some, and I suspect it'll divide the room at times. But my intent, though, as always, is to share what I currently believe and I currently understand about the kingdom of God and its concepts, both the narrow and the wide. So we're continuing with Blood Cries Out. So we're wrapping around to the trial in front of Pilate. Because Matthew's text is rather short and concise, right? Jesus makes one response to Pilate and he doesn't speak again. As the rest of the trial unfolds and the other charges are laid out, there's no response, there's no rebuttal, there's no dogmatic defense, no throwing the Bible in their faces. Wait, that doesn't exist yet. So, what Jesus is doing is he's actually living the words that he taught, right? We're getting that WWJD. This chance he's kind of showing us. We need to remember the when we're at too, right? That we're in the Passover season. It's a very important time for the year with the Jewish people. Yeah. Um, but it's interesting that there had developed a custom that the Roman governor would release a prisoner. Part of me wonders how they decided that in previous years, right? Who chose the one that was requested to be released? Pilate, ironically, seeing through the charade a bit, it seems, immediately he turns around and he offers the people the choice, right? So Pilate, he picks a known criminal, right? But it seems that this criminal was part of the Jewish freedom movement, a kindred group, possibly that Simon the Zealot would relate to. Yeah. Remember, if we understand right, that he's killed in the name of God and of freedom, right? But I'd be willing to bet that most of you probably didn't have that view of Barabbas before, right? Because we get a lot of out of context teachings for us at times. That's something to think about. But remember, this man with a known past, right? And one that even Pilate thinks the people will think again. Okay, sit back. Because hear me out. I have another one of my upside down thoughts to consider. So listen. Only a few days before, these very people that are clamoring for him, Jesus, Yeshua, as king, they want him to be king. Tim mentions that he thinks they're a different group. I'm not necessarily compelled by that because it would be the people that would be watching to see what Jesus was going, right? And they were expecting him to now step up and begin the fall of the occupation because they want to be free. But now, standing before them is this man that they were clamoring for. He's not what they expected, not what they had hoped for. He was in the captive hands of the very folks he was supposed to dethrone. Then Pilate offers them a man that was known as a freedom fighter that had killed for the cause. So we have a clamored for king that was not meeting expectations, and we have a man that had arguably killed for God. With those sandals on in that time, are we really shocked by the response? Jesus was not meeting their expectations. Okay, so here comes the kicker. What would happen if we'd had an expectation of a visit and it wasn't met? It wasn't what we expected. How would we respond? I expect coffee and donuts. Okay. So the irony of name play, right, seems to be lost on most. And I loved this, right? You, as Tim pointed out, would have to see the original text to see this, right? Because this is often missed or dismissed by our English translations, this Yeshua and Yeshua. Yeah. So one Yeshua is actually the son of the Father, right? And one Meshua, he's called the son of a father, right? Or a master, Bar Abbas. So we have Yeshua Bar Abbas. Maybe he was even the son of someone important, right? Because it can also mean son of a master. But again, we cannot put our current paradigms and lay them over the events of the past, right? We can't do that. I say this. Yet, if we could. The crowd screaming, "Let Yeshua Barabbas, son of the Father, let him go." Could we stand back and say, do you actually hear what you're saying? I'll give you a minute to pause. So, we have one of the Yeshuas is acting in the manner that they would want at the time, right? He's pro-Israel, blood and country, death to Rome. And we have one Yeshua that's saying and living a very different life. A man who had said, turn the other cheek. Pray for that Roman soldier after he disrespects you. Love your enemies instead of killing them. And we know who the crowd chose in the fervor of the moment. You know, because even Pilate's own wife tries to warn him off because of a dream that she had, of which we have zero details, but she just tells him, do not get involved with this righteous man. You know, Pilate, he even implores with, what evil has he done to you, right? He's throwing it back in their lap. And the crowd, they're so worked up that they want him dead. Pilate, his pleas, right? They're on deaf ears. So what's he do? He washes his hands at a symbolic of rinsing the blood guilt that he wants no part of. You know, I love Tim's point about the third instance of a dream in Matthew's account. The first being to Joseph, a warning. The second to the Magi, a warning. And the third to Pilate's wife. Seems a point to pay attention to another warning. Pilate, he's conflicted. Is this Jesus of Nazareth really worth all of this? Because Pilate's not convinced that Jesus is the person that they're portraying, because even his wife calls him back. But Pilate, he wants and he needs peace in the region. He does not want another uprising. So, in self-preservation, Pilate acquiesces to the thunderous throngs and gives Yeshua ben Joseph, Jesus of Nazareth, over for crucifixion. As the crowd clamors, his blood shall be on us and our children. I'm a little bit hesitant about Tim's point about Pilate being selfish. I'm not as compelled by the selfishness as self-preservation. Pilate has no dog in this fight. He realizes that Jesus is not a threat to Rome and that he's not being peace. This isn't the man that he was painted to be. But you know, Pilate gets pinched because Pilate's not going to have the power of Rome marching in here for this guy and this reason. Yes, I guess self-preservation is a bit selfish. Yet, remember, this is not his fight. But to spare him, he risked so much more. But is he innocent? By no means. And is he culpable? You bet. But yet I'm not unconvinced that in our times that we face similar thoughts and different ideas, and I think we've leaned the same way. So this clamoring crowd, this thunderous throng, they're all caught up in the moment. And they're misinformed and mistaught. This crowd, this mob is so caught up in the moment that they again respond with, his blood shall be on us and our children. That blood guilt that Judas can't cope with and kills himself, that Pilate washes his hands of, they seem ready to accept. But again, misinformed, and mistaught. Because it's a messy story after this, right? There's no major uprising until much later, right? To around 70 AD. And that uprising to try and purge Rome, it led directly to the destruction of the Second Temple. Jesus, he talked about that and this mindset that they had. That was the resolution they wanted. And we see where that went. Blood cries out. Death of the innocent. I'm more and more compelled that I'm going to do my best to not contribute to any hate or death. Because the risk of the betrayal of the innocent is still way too great. God is and has always been. It's even evident with Cain in the beginning that he's one of justice and mercy. God will sort this all out in the end, whenever that is. But we needed this story to happen, to unfold as it did, because the prophets warned of such, right? But unlike the end of the Second Temple, directly related to the actions of this story, death is not the end. Because we have a much different end than they all expected. Jesus, loving your enemy on a scale so large, it's almost incomprehensible. The death to pay a price so enormous, to touch the lives of literally every human being that has ever and will ever live. This needed to happen. One of Tim's points, his last points that he brings up about how he viewed many of the people in this story. Helpless, hopeless, rebels, selfish, apathetic. I find them actually as mirrors of ourselves so many times. Because we're wanting Rome out. It's an easy thought. Wanting to point out how wrong people are by the way we think. Easy again. But to live out sacrificial love, to not hate, to have folks at your dinner table that others wouldn't expect, that might actually be more than we can bear. But the best part, it's still to come. And it's the last episode of this series with Tim Mackie. It's episode 37, The Crocus Flower in the Empty Tomb. So our point to ponder, I want to play the Macbeth clip again, and I want you to hear it, and I want you to really think about it as the desperation of Judas as he's realizing that blood guilt, even though he's thrown the money back, that stain on his hands cannot go away. The blood of an innocent is going to be spilt.
Yet here's a spot.
Hark, she speaks. We should set down what comes from her, to satisfy remembrance the more strongly.
Out, damn spot! Out, I say! 1, 2. Why, then 'tis time to do it. Hell is murky. Fie, my lord, fie. A soldier and afeard. What need we fear? Who knows it when none can call our power to account? But who would have thought the old man to have had so much blood in him?
Do you mark that?
The vein of 5 had a wife. Where is she now? What, will these hands ne'er be clean? No more of them, my lord, no more of that! You more all with this starting.
Go to. You have known what you should not.
She has spoke what she should not. I am sure of that. Heaven knows what she has known.
Yet here's the smell of blood still. All the perfumes of Arabia will not sweeten this little hand.
What a sigh is there! The heart is sorely charged.
I would not have such a heart in my bosom for the dignity of the whole body.
Well.
Pray God it be, sir.
This disease is beyond my practice. Yet I have known those which have walked in their sleep who have died holily in their beds.
Wash your hands. Put on your nightgown. Look not so pale. I tell you yet again, Big was buried. He cannot come out on his grave.
Even so!
To bed. There's knocking at the gate.